And Marcus, starting off with a look at the potential economic fallout from the Ukraine crisis.
Yeah, European leaders there to meet in Brussels on Thursday, and they've threatened further sanctions to punish Russia for the annexation of Crimea. At the same time, there are fears among European businesses that they'll become collateral damage. 6,000 German companies do business in Russia, and as Damien McGuinness explains, their appetite for sanctions is limited.
Industrial machinery, German-made, but for the Russian market, which accounts for 15 to 20% of Mattis Menzel's business. So economic sanctions against Russia could spell disaster for his company.
We're exhibiting at a trade fair in April in St. Petersburg. Over the last few years, we've seen a marked growth in the trade with the Russian market. If that collapses, that would be a real blow for our export business.
Machinery, electronics, cars, all typical German exports to Russia, amounting to 36 billion euros last year. Germany's business community warns that economic sanctions against Russia could have a boomerang effect.
If there is an escalation in the crisis, then it's clear that German jobs that depend on exports will be hit. And there are almost 400,000 jobs in Germany dependent on Russian trade.
Germany, as Russia's third biggest trading partner, has a lot to lose. But despite this, the German government is getting tough. Sources close to Chancellor Angela Merkel say that sanctions are being seen as inevitable.
If we engage in major sanctions, that would have an impact on the whole European economy. But that is the price that we would be forced to pay. We have to face up to the fact that to a certain extent we will also suffer from the sanctions. We have to be politically ready for that.
But German society seems less keen on such self-sacrifice. More than two-thirds of Germans don't want sanctions against Russia.
Now, investors are keeping an eye on the situation in Ukraine, but the crisis didn't play a big role in the stock markets on Wednesday. Let's bring you the closing figures from the United States. Investors they were digesting comments from Janet Yellen, the Federal Reserve Chair, this Wednesday. And on the back of those comments, the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed down 0.7%. This as Yellen suggested, or at least the belief in the market is that Yellen suggested that the Fed could hike up interest rates earlier than previously thought. That put a dampener on trading on Wall Street in the final few hours. Let's also talk you through the European close. The markets here in Europe, they were mixed at the close of the trade with the DAX, the CAC count, I should say, and the FTSE falling back after gaining on Tuesday. The DAX index was higher on the back of some news from BMW, and I'm going to talk you through that bit of news in just a moment. First, though, let's look at shares in the Spanish clothes retailer Inditex. They reached new highs on Wednesday, closing 4.5% higher. It came as the owner of Zara said it saw strong sales during the first 6 weeks of its current financial year. At the same time, the retailer said its profits barely grew in the year that ended in January. Those profits came in at 2.4 billion euros, as Inditex said it continued to invest in expanding stores. Let's talk you through why the German DAX index climbed higher, though it got a boost as shares in BMW surged by almost 7%. The gain came as the German carmaker issued an upbeat forecast for sales and profits this year. BMW says pre-tax earnings will come in significantly higher than last year's 7.9 billion euros. The company is also to sell more than 2 million vehicles, which is a higher figure than we saw for 2013. Staying with this car theme, Toyota is to pay $1.2 billion to atone for misleading statements about car safety. The settlement with the U.S. government was announced by Attorney General Eric Holder in Washington earlier. He said it's the largest penalty of its kind to be imposed on a car maker. The action concludes a 4-year investigation after Toyota recalled more than 10 million vehicles. Holder says Toyota concealed information over issues with brakes, accelerator pedals and floor mats.
As part of the resolution of this case, Toyota will fully admit wrongdoing. It will pay a financial penalty of $1.2 billion. And going forward, the company will submit to rigorous review by an independent monitor. that will examine and assess the manner in which Toyota regularly reports safety issues to the public and its regulator.
All right, Eric Holder there, keeping a tight leash on Toyota, if you will. And with that, I'm going to wrap up the business news for now. I'll be back again in an hour's time with more headlines. Laura.
Marcus, thank you very much indeed. Well, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back with all the latest international headlines shortly after Web News. Stay with us.